So there are two types of children in my experience. There are the children that treat reading as a punishment, and the children that treat reading as a reward. My name is Will Fall, and I was solidly in the latter camp. You couldn't get a book out of my hands unless I was being actively punished for something that the punishment was I wasn't allowed to read for a certain period of time. But as I got older, I developed this cool thing that everybody has called a social media addiction, where I stopped reading and sort of started using that time to instead just scroll endlessly on my phone and watch YouTube videos and all of that fun stuff instead. So now instead of reading and expanding my mind and doing all that fun stuff, I am just sitting on a couch watching YouTube endlessly. Around about 3 years ago, I realized that I couldn't remember the last time I read a book for fun. Most of the books I had read up until that point had been for college because I was a history and writing major. So I was still reading a lot, but I was sort of being forced to by my classes, and I wasn't reading books that were personally interesting to me beyond the reason that I had signed up for the class in the first place. And so I challenged myself in the year 2023 to read 12 books. And I did successfully manage to do that. And it was a really great time. I had a fantastic time doing it, so I did it again in 2024 and one more time in 2025. Now it's 2026, I'm doing it once again, and you guys are coming along for the ride with me. So the way that this is going to work is I selected 12 random books from my bookshelf of wonders. Just a bunch of random things that I've collected over the years. And most of them I tried to specify the books that I hadn't read before, but at this point I've read most of the books on my bookshelf. So a lot of them are repeats this year, but I am looking forward to reading them again. I'm going to read them. I'm going to make a video talking about them. And from those videos, you can decide whether or not you want to read them or if you think I'm stupid. Those are your two options. You can either read the book or call me stupid in the comments. I have a bad feeling I know which ones you guys are going to choose. Anyway, so this first video is just sort of saying here's all the different things I'm going to be reading, and just also a nice icebreaker so you can see how I operate in terms of reading books and what I tend to like to read this year and what I'm going to be reading throughout the entirety of this year. The first book is Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. This is a book that I've read before. It is a book that talks a lot about how to get out of debt and how to just be more financially responsible. I currently have a little bit of student loan debt that I have been trying to pay off, and using the things in this book, I've actually managed to get well ahead of where I'm supposed to be in terms of paying off that student loan debt. So while Dave Ramsey might have his quirks and a little bit, I wouldn't trust him with everything that he said, because he says some crazy, wild stuff sometimes. I would say that in terms of getting out of debt, his process is, so far, working for me. So I'm looking forward to reading this again, seeing how I'm doing, and seeing if there's any way I could potentially improve what I'm doing in order to get out of debt faster. Especially considering I'm considering doing a master's degree, and that's going to put me in even more debt that I'll then have to get out of. Thank you, America. Ew, don't smile like that. Yuck. So the second book that I'm reading is another one of those like lifestyle types of books, which is a sort of theme throughout this year. A lot of these books are talking about how you can live your life as an individual and how you can improve your life by following this one random person. I've had these books on my shelf for a while, and some of them I've never read before, some of them I have read before. This is an example of one that I've never read before, The Unplugged Hours by Hannah Brechner. This is a book talking about how we can reconnect with our physical world instead of constantly being attached to our digital world, which, as someone who opened up this video by saying that he had a social media addiction that stopped him from reading for a long time, this is something that I might appreciate. So this is the one that I have not read before, so I have no idea if I'm going to like it or if I'm just going to hate it. But if I like it or I hate it, I'll come and tell you about it. So you can look forward to that. And so can I. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment so you don't miss the next video. And ring that bell. Do we ring bells anymore? Anyway. I have 2 John Mark Comer books. This is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. The other one is going to be God Has a Name. Both of them talk a lot about how we can reconnect with God as modern Christians. I've really appreciated both of them in the past, and I'm looking forward to reading them again. So I have this one, and then in between it, I have this book called The Bible Can Be Proven, which was written by a local author talking about the evidence for why we can trust what Scripture is telling us. I have had good luck with local authors, especially ones that sell their books in the bookstore that I work at in the past, and this is a signed copy that he sold to me. So I'm really looking forward to reading this and seeing if I know all the evidence already as a Bible teacher, or if there's going to be new things that I can take into some of my classes in the future. So this was in between these 2 books. I also have God Has a Name, another great book talking about how we can call God by his true name, which is Yahweh, and how that name can indicate just so much about the Christian life. So these 3 books are talking about how we can trust in God and how we can use his principles in the modern world, and I'm looking forward to reading all 3 of them. We'll see how they look. This gets to our first book, which sort of breaks the theme of Christianity, self-help type style books. This is The Bookshop by Evan Friss. My mom actually gave me this book because she had tried to read it on her job, and she found it so boring that she decided to, instead of reading it herself, give it to me. Thanks, Mom. But I actually am genuinely excited to read this because I have been working at a bookstore for around about 5 years now, and I am super excited to be reading it and seeing what it's all about and how just the history. It's a history of books, which are both of my special interests. So I'm excited to be reading it, and I hope that I find it less boring than my mother did. Thanks, Mom. I do love you. You're awesome. Anyway. This is a book that I'm sort of genuinely scared to read because I think it's going to be really funky, and I don't know how it's going to go. This is How Not to Read the Bible. I picked up this book like 3 years ago, but I've never actually read it because I got so put off by just the images on the cover, because they have things like dinosaurs, a white Jesus, unicorns, and shrimp, as well as, I don't know what that is, like torture or something. So I have no idea what this book is going to be. It could be the most brilliant book I've read in a long time. It could be totally freaking insane. But I am genuinely excited to see what it's about and how I can read it. So no matter what happens, if it's insane or totally normal, you'll be getting a full review of this one. Be excited. Ring that bell. These next 2 books sort of fit a very similar theme to what I was talking about before of like being a Christian in the modern world, but in a slightly different way. This is When Politics Becomes Heresy and Exiles. These 2 books were for sale at the bookstore that I work at, but since we have a very narrow demographic that I do not fit in whatsoever, they were not very popular. So I think I was the only person who bought either of these books from the bookstore. So I've read Exiles before. I really did like it. I thought it was a really good book and really talked about like the problems of American Christianity really well. And When Politics Becomes Heresy promises to do a very similar thing. So I'm excited to read both of them. So I am genuinely excited to read both of these books, and it'll be awesome. Now it's time for something that came totally out of left field. This is a fiction book. This is a comic book. This is doesn't have anything to do with the Bible whatsoever. This is the book Unordinary. So I picked this book up because I had read the original webcomic just years ago, and I have not read through this book yet to refresh my memory. But a student actually recently started talking to me about it and asking me all these questions about what I thought about the different plot points. But I didn't remember any of the plot points yet because it's been so long since I've read this book. So I'm going to read this book this year in October, long after it's lost all relevance to the conversation I was having with that student. Still excited, though. Finally, we have one more book in the modern Christian politics thing, and that is The After Party. This is talking about how politics and political parties should not be as divisive as they are, and how we as Christians can sort of reach across party lines and work together to make a better world and a better America, despite the political differences that we might have. I've read this book before. I really do like it, but I'm excited to read it again to see if I can get any deeper with the thought processes that I have with it. And finally, that leads to the last book that I am going to be reading this year, besides the one that I'm going to be getting into in just a second here, and that is Gentle and Lonely by Donnie. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I apologize. I should have looked that up before. But Gentle and Lonely, I read a book that's sort of an abridged version of this a few years ago when I was in a dark point in my Christian walk, and it made me cry, like, a lot. So I'm hopeful that this book will be really good, and they didn't just cut all the bad parts out of it to make that abridged version. But we'll see. I also like this cover because it feels sort of like canvas in a painting, and it makes my brain happy because I get to like touch and feel and hold it. The texture is really good. I like the texture of the book cover. Anyway, across when I'm reading all of these books, I am also going to be reading the CSB Bible. I have been reading the Bible cover to cover for the last couple of years now, as well as reading through all the different books that I had selected for all the different years. I've read the ESV version, the NLT version, and I just finished up the Message version. So this will be the fourth full Bible that I read, and this is the Christian Standard Bible. I believe it is the sixth most popular translation in America as of 2024. Yeah, the sixth most popular translation underneath the New King James, the New Living Translation, the regular King James, the English Standard Version, and the NIV. If you have any idea what any of those things mean, congratulations, you know a lot about Bible translations. If you don't, they're essentially just different translations of the Bible, so different ways of saying pretty much the exact same thing. So I'm going to be reading this because I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I'm excited to do so. So all of these books I'm going to be making reviews of them, saying what I thought, saying what the experience of reading them was like, and yeah, free content. More videos. More things to feed into the algorithm. I really hope that you guys like them as well. Even though this is more of a personal thing for myself, I am not reading them because they're the most popular books right now. They're not the most hip happening things in the world, but I'm going to enjoy reading them, and I hope that you enjoy watching me talk about them. Yeah. Did I introduce myself? I don't remember if I introduced myself. My name's William Fall. This is my YouTube channel. You should subscribe. Good plug. You're doing really great. Thanks, me. You're doing really great, too. And nobody noticed the 4 mistakes that you made in this video. Except for me. I'm your biggest enemy.